have been a handful of PR disasters in the last few weeks out of the United States. First, Pepsi angered the masses with an ad that featured Kendall Jenner joining a protest, soda in hand. Tone deaf was the general reaction to that ad. Then came United, and they unseated Pepsi as the most talked about company on social media with that video of the passenger being dragged off a plane. Allan Bonner joins me in our CBC Toronto studio tonight. He owns and runs a crisis management and media relations firm. Hi, Allan.
Good evening.
If ever there was one, this has been a PR crisis for United. What do you think about how they handled this after the story first broke and we saw that stunning video of the passenger being dragged off a plane?
Well, the reason it's a crisis is that it keeps on giving, that every remedy seemed to make the situation worse. Now, British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli said all crises are the same, and this is what I see in my business. First of all, there's the policy that the airline has of trying to get people to get off the plane. They would have been better off renting a car for their own staff to drive them to Louisville. They would have got there at about the same time. They could have rented a jet for the same price, roughly, as compensating for passengers. They could have rented a propeller plane. They could have taken the bus. They could have taken the train. Airlines need alternatives to annoying their paying customers when they need to get their staff somewhere. It's kind of like being at a restaurant and somebody swipes the dinner out of your plate and says, sorry, we've got a staffer back in the kitchen who's hungry. Doesn't make any sense. Then we get to the explanation, which is almost worse than the offense. Jargon, balderdash, poppycock, invented words like re-accommodating, 42-word sentences, droning on and on in an official statement, tacitly blaming the customer, congratulating staff, then saying, but we've got something to learn. You're not sure what it is they're trying to communicate. Then relying on and they do a lot of hard work, but the security people, I was going to call them rent-a-cops, that's what they are. They aren't fully trained police officers, I don't think, at the Chicago airport. Relying on those folks in a heavy-handed way, not realizing that these are paying customers and are on that plane lawfully, and the airline may be obeying the law, but the law is an ass in this case. So, I mean, I could go on, Joe, but it's just a shame to see a large, profitable company lose lots of money and lots of reputation for no good reason.
What if they had just started to up the ante of the incentive to get off the plane because nobody was volunteering, no one wanted to get off the plane? Mm-hmm. Would there be value in saying, well, okay, we'll give you more money instead of just what the initial offer was?
Well, of course, and if you go out to the Scar Street Mall and ask a couple of homeless people, they will tell you that that's probably a good idea. You don't have to be a genius PR person to realize that offering people up to $13.50, which is I think what the airline's policy is, would have been a much better option. So might have, as I said, flying their own staff across the country at their own expense. There were countless options, and it has nothing to do with overbooking, overselling, which are terms that the public doesn't know and which don't apply in this case, but there should be a stop put to that too.
Okay, so the CEO makes the initial apology. That's met with disgust. How does a company like this not be guided into what turned out to be a better second apology the first time around?
Well, look, take this into your personal life. You come home 3 hours late and you apologize to your loved ones for being late for dinner or the birthday party or whatever it is. That has to be a really complete and abject apology. Now, you come home 3 hours late and you're drunk, your apology has to be a lot better. If you come home 3 hours late drunk and you blame it on your kids who are having their birthday and then blame it on your spouse and then try to apologize, you've got a long road to come back. So they are suffering from their own ineptitude, and it takes, the rule is in crisis management, 4 times the weight and temperature of a remedy to make good. So it's not just enough to say, I'm sorry. Man, you have to go a long way after you've made all these mistakes.
Do you think United can recover? They've already suffered incredibly with their stock price.
Well, sure, they'll recover, and so will the TD Bank that suffered a shock to their stock when employees said they were being pressured to sell people stuff. The public has a short memory. Some leading companies have been convicted of criminal conspiracy and all kinds of bad things. Volkswagen has Hitler in its background, and the Rolling Stones have done well with a bad reputation. So a good reputation isn't always forever, and it isn't always the best thing. People will forget. They forgot United breaks guitars. They forgot about the autistic child. People have forgotten about the Vietnam veteran. So there are a lot of things, but I think that this could be a turning point where if the president is involved, Chris Christie's involved, there may be some new legislation or something. But you have a lot of disgruntled consumers out there who are mad at a lot of different corporations, not just United.
And Allan, I wanted to ask you about the U.S. Press Secretary, Sean Spicer. He apologized this week for comments he made about the Holocaust. How does someone who is in a position whose job it is to manage messages in front of the media make a mistake like that and have to apologize?
Through lack of work. Now, I don't have to guess. I know that you look over or read over your scripts and even think about some of the throws and little comments that you're going to make during the course of a program, and I did when I was a broadcaster. Tom Brokaw was once asked, "What are you doing before an election broadcast?" And he said, "I'm writing out my ad libs." If Sean Spicer had rehearsed out loud, as the people I know at the State Department have done, I've been in that briefing at the State Department. They get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they rehearse, they compare notes with the White House and the Pentagon. The Brookings Institution has written this up. There's no secret about how they do well. They rehearse and they practice. Had Sean Spicer heard himself using the word Hitler, he might have taken a pause and said, I wonder if this discourse is going to go well. Then if he'd have heard the word poison gas and Hitler in the same sentence, most people would have stopped at that point and said, I think I better use a different analogy. This is insensitive. And you have probably done the same thing in your work. Gee, this isn't going to work out well. So he simply didn't do the work that you and I do for a living to try to sound reasonably intelligent.
It is about preparation, there's no question. Are you surprised that he still has the job he has based on what's happened?
No, because remember, we have a president who has about a year under his belt of saying wildly outrageous things and actually being rewarded for doing so. So I think he will lose his job, but I don't think it will be because of this. And let's also make a distinction. In fairness, I don't know why I want to be fair to Sean Spicer, but let's just be fair to him for a moment. There was nothing malicious about this. It wasn't anti-Semitic. It wasn't pro-Hitler. It was just a bad analogy and an insensitive analogy that he hadn't thought through that he was making. He was trying to say Assad is a very bad guy, and he is. But remember, Winston Churchill used gas in World War I, so that opens up a real Pandora's box. But it wasn't malicious. It was just stupid.
Allan, thanks for your time this afternoon.
My pleasure.